Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Thank the Lord that the Eagles have something to talk about. Thank the Lord that there was an NFL draft, or this would truly be a boring time. And I know that Elton Brand spoke to the media today, and I will address what was said tomorrow on my episode of Processed with D-Ray. We are going to break down Elton Brand. But as for today's podcast, I think it is important to bring up Carson Wentz and his press conference. I think it's important to look at what Arcega-Whiteside said about being banged up last season. And I also think it's important to look at the report by Dave Spadaro, who claimed that Alshon Jeffery will be a major part of this offense. So let's dive into this. But before we do, we need to hear a few words from my sponsor. This episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. They set the standard for clean energy. Whether you are looking to add solar to your home or your company, Orbit Energy and Power will work with you to ensure that you are getting the best deal. Their team has over 20 years of experience. That's not all. Orbit can also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, and battery storage. Visit them online at www.orbitenergy.us or call them at 800-836-3987. Also, do not forget about Ravens Brew Coffee. I'm recording this late at night, and guess what? Bang, here it is. I told you, I drink so much coffee all the time. Ravens Brew Coffee is the best coffee to ever touch my lips. There's so much variety involved, and it's made for different times of the day with different caffeine levels. It is adjustable to you. That's how much variety they have. So many different unique blends, which are made for your palate. The link is in the description. Check it out. All right, so let's start with Carson Wentz in that press conference. It totally did exactly what I expected it to. And it's not the media's fault to ask these questions, but as soon as that press conference started, what do you think about Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts, what do you think about the pick? How did you feel when Howie did it? How do you think he's going to be implemented? Bombarded. He was absolutely bombarded with a ton of questions about the draft pick. And that's what the media's job is to do. And he gave you the robotic answers. I'm excited. I can't wait to work with him. Adding a good quarterback to the quarterback room will be great for this team. Yada, yada, yada. Just filling you a bunch of crap, which is the proper way to handle this. I thought this was an interesting discussion, though. I heard people a little upset. They wish Carson Wentz was more real, that he gave an answer that was more human-like and not so much a robot. This is a lose-lose situation. If he sells you this, which we all know is fake, then we rip him for being fake and just lying. If he was to say, I'm disappointed, I'm bothered, I'm worried, I don't like it, then he would get ripped apart for not being a competitor that's ready to embrace a battle. There's no way to win. And I don't want my quarterback standing up to the media and saying, listen, I hate it. Would I mind a scenario like this? I'm excited for Jalen Hurts. I think he can contribute to this football team, but this is my football team. I wonder what the reaction would be to that. Would there be more support for Carson Wentz if he went strictly with that? It's not overpowering. It's not too aggressive, but it's not laid back either. But here's the thing. That's not Carson Wentz. Now you are making him something that he's not. That's not his personality. His personality is, let me embrace this team. I'm a good guy. I'm a good person. I'm not going to be a little cocky. That's not who I am, right? That's how Carson Wentz thinks to himself. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. I prefer the status quo answers, the cliche answers, over adding a little personality to the mix. But it's a lose-lose situation for him. And I think he played it fine. The thing is, we all know what he said was ridiculous. Because even Howie Roseman stated that the conversation between the two at the time was uncomfortable. Sal Pal actually had some quotes out there too, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was along the lines of, he went with what he needed to say. He was biting his teeth. He was putting on a show. He was putting on a smile. I'm paraphrasing, but that was the general idea that Sal Powell was going with. And that's fair. I think that's realistic because we would all feel the same way in that spot. But if Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson and Jeffrey Lurie did not think that this would be how it would go down, shame on them. Did they not expect this to happen all over again? And I laid this out on 97.3 ESPN today with Mike Gill on the Sports Bash. We got into a heated debate in that 3 o'clock hour, which was very entertaining, by the way. And you can go listen to the Sports Bash. The show is now podcasted. If you can't listen from 2 to 6 p.m. on all podcasting platforms, you can search the Sports Bash with Mike Gill and Hunter Brody, and it'll pop up. You can listen to the full show without any commercials. But in that 3 o'clock hour, I was trying to tell him, as I'm trying to regain my thoughts because I totally forget where I was going after plugging in the podcasting app. Where was I? Talking about Carson Wentz. Talking about how important it was. Wow, I'm actually going to have to go stop this and go back and listen to it. And I am pissed that I have to do that. Ah, yes, I remember. What I laid out on 97.3 was every move that happens in the NFL is very situational. Because the Green Bay Packers did something with Aaron Rodgers and drafted a quarterback, that doesn't relate to what happened with the Philadelphia Eagles. Because the New Orleans Saints paid Taysom Hill and they got him undrafted and he became this gadget guy, that doesn't really relate to the Philadelphia Eagles. When you look at this situation with Carson Wentz, it is very situational. Not every quarterback had an MVP-like season, went down, and then had to watch the backup win the Super Bowl. Not every quarterback then the next year had to deal with a back injury, probably from coming back too soon, and then to watch that same backup quarterback bring that team to the postseason and win a game in Chicago with one of the flukiest game-winning kicks ever, which was one hell of a moment for us Eagles fans. Finally getting rid of that backup quarterback, putting together a 9-7 season and going on a tear late in the season to make sure they win the division and then bring a quarterback controversy right back. This isn't a common thing. This isn't something that you can compare to other teams. This is very unique. And for the front office to not even assume that this would spark the same exact problem that has happened over the last couple seasons, shame on them. And if you couldn't tell right from the jump of this press conference that it is automatically, instantly right back, then you are on drugs. It's just that simple. The first few questions bombarding Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts, and deservingly so because that's what everyone wants to know. That's the information that is needed. They need to get answers. That's their job. Ask the questions. It's Howie's fault and Jeffrey Lurie's fault and Doug Peterson's fault that we are right back to where we started prior to Carson's season this past year where he won the division. You got Mike Golick of Golick and Wingo questioning what the thought process was with this pick, saying he knows Carson Wentz is pissed. He knows he's not happy. Of course not. Nobody would be. No one. It was the first time that he spoke since the injury, though. And to hear about his side of the story with the concussion and how bad it really was, it's scary stuff. Concussions are no joke. And I had to go through one when I was younger and I was playing hockey. I got hit from behind and I woke up instantly. I looked around. Where the hell am I? What happened? I was in the hospital. I blacked out. I don't remember the ride to the hospital. I don't remember going into the emergency vehicle or anything. I don't remember anything. I woke up in the hospital. What the hell happened? It's a scary time. And to think that he even tried to play with that too. To think he had to play plays like that, that is scary to process. In an NFL game where people are trying to kill you, and by the way, it was a playoff game, so the players trying to kill you is multiplied by, 6 or 7 compared to the regular season, and that's saying a lot because the regular season is even brutal. And we know it's brutal because here's Arcega-Whiteside's story that just broke, and I saw this report from John Clark of NBC Sports Philadelphia, Apparently, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside was so banged up last season that he couldn't even walk at times. He needed help going to the bathroom. What? I was stunned when I saw this headline. I was really thrown back a bit. In what world was J.J. Arcega-Whiteside that banged up? Did he play that much to get banged up? If he was that banged up, why was he still out there on the field? Is the league too harsh for him? Nothing pops in my mind that goes, wow, all right, that's exactly where it happened. Ooh, that was a tough play by JJ. Clearly, he's banged up because of that. I'm almost more concerned to hear that he was banged up this badly than I am satisfied that there's at least a reason for him to play that poorly. Initially, my mind went in a spot where, okay, now I can comprehend why he was so embarrassing last season. But then I dove deeper. It's almost more embarrassing that he was this banged up with the limited amount of play. Now, it only takes one shot here to really get yourself hurting. I don't know, though. I don't know what he possibly could have done to the point where he needs help going to the bathroom and where he needs help walking at times. I'm not saying he's lying by any means. I think he probably was that hurt. How did he get that hurt? When did he get hit that hard? How many times did he possibly get hit? Those are the questions that I'm asking myself. And if you're going to be successful in this league, you're going to have to take a lot more damage than that. You can't be that brittle. And if I remember correctly, was he a little hurt too before he was even drafted by the Eagles? Was there something there prior to his time with the Philadelphia Eagles when he was playing in the Pac-12 with Stanford? I think there was at least a little something going on during that time before he got here in Philly. In what world, though, really? Why still play? And then the relationship between him and Carson never got to where it needed to be in his eyes because he wasn't able to get where he needed to be, because him and Carson never really got that mojo at all. There was never a time to get synced together because of this problem. So he was throwing it to Ertz instead and going with players that he could rely on because he couldn't rely on Jjaw. Very interesting story. Very interesting time to drop, as if now we are learning about this. As if it was never reported before that it was to this degree. I think it was known, okay, he's got a lower body injury. Well, what does that mean? Why don't we learn these things? Why don't we know? Why aren't we told that, wow, Jjaw is going through something, but he's battling it out? We find out in the middle of May, it's the beginning of May, during a pandemic, that it was to this level of injured. Was he playing because, why? No one else was available? They didn't trust the Greg Wards of the world yet? Could it have been much worse at that time? They were trying to support their second-round pick? This was our player. This was their guy we went out and got. He's good. I promise he's good. Keep throwing him out there. It truly is incredible. All right, let's get to the last part here. Alshon Jeffery will be a major part to this offense, according to Dave Spandera. Is it true? There's some speculation that this is somewhat of a smokescreen, trying to get a lot of buzz, trying to throw reports out there so other teams might be interested, might pick up the phone and call Howie Roseman and say, whoa, hold on. Are you actually interested in keeping Alshon? Maybe there's something there with him. Maybe he can still play. Maybe once he gets back from the PUP list, he will be able to be a factor for a football team. Look at that money on the contract. I don't know who would ever take a chance on that type of contract with the player who's this injured. Now, does Alshon Jeffery stink? I don't think he stinks at all. I think if he's on the football field, he helps your team. He will be beneficial to a squad. Any squad out there, no doubt. But with that money and that injury, who's going to pay Or who's going to put together compensation to go out and grab him? Because if I'm a fan of the Eagles, let's say, which I am, not if, I am, and Howie Roseman went out and traded for someone who was so hurt, he would have to start the season on the PUP list, and he had the type of salary that Alshon had, I would be fuming. We would all be fuming. Our faces would be red. We'd be biting our fists, and we'd be swinging at the air, pissed off at Howie Roseman. So why would any other GM make that move? I'm okay with keeping Alshon. I think I'm not opposed to it. Because when he is on the field, there is something there. Originally, I thought there was no way in hell. Considering all the noise last season, there was no way in hell they were going to keep him. They brought in a ton of wide receivers. Their wide receiver room right now is extremely packed. I don't see Howie Roseman, though, biting the bullet, proving that he made a mistake, and releasing him, cutting him, and having that type of dead money on the cap. It seems as if they're going to rock and roll with him, and that's the way they're going to approach this. If nobody else wants to take him, if nobody else is willing to trade, fine. We have him on the books. If he's on our books, we will utilize him. And by the time he comes back in the season, if this is true, if this is a major part of the offense, they're already going to be in rhythm. They're already going to have an identity by then. And if the identity is a good one, I don't see Alshon Jeffery messing it up and hurting it. The only thing that concerns me is if at that time it's bad. And if it's bad, will it make it worse? If they're 10 weeks in, 11 weeks in, and here comes Alshon Jeffery, and they have 4 wins or 5 wins, okay, I can see that maybe being bad. If he comes in and they have 7 wins, all right, let's add some juice. Let's add a veteran player that's reliable. Let's add someone who isn't very fast and is definitely a little on the back 9, if you will, but he's capable of making a play. If he's beaten someone in his respected one-on-one battle, toss it up and he can go get it. It just comes into play then, will he get pissed off because he's not getting a lot of looks? Is Carson Wentz going to other spots? Rager, Miles Sanders, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, Deshaun Jackson, maybe even a Hightower, a Greg Ward. Is Alshon going to come in and start banging his feet, pouting, banging on the table, saying, I'm not getting the ball enough? Because he's not able to get off as quick as he once was. Because that Lince Frank injury was a bigger problem than we thought it was. And the recap time and the recovery time is forcing him to be a little slower out there. That's a concern. But there's also another side to that. If that's my concern, my positive is if the team is flowing and you add a respected receiver where teams need to look at him and say, okay, that's another weapon. It's not the weapon he once was, but it's still another weapon that has to be noticed every single snap because he can make the play, because he has great hands, because Carson can rely on him. That is also a way that this can go down. There's no doubt that this team is going to be intriguing, very fascinating, a lot of storylines, which makes it fun from my standpoint because there's so many avenues that you can take this during a season, leading up to the season, when there's so much noise and controversy. At the same time, though, I don't want too much because I want the team to succeed. I want it to be a great team, great camaraderie. Looks like they're going places. Oh, by the way, the schedule is going to be released this week. And I love this. I love the let's go through the list and go through the W's and L's because it never happens the way that you say it will on paper, right? Oh, this is an easy W. This is a loss. You're on the road. You're in New Orleans. This is going to be an L. It never, ever, ever goes the way that you expect it to. But we all do it. It's a part of football. It's a part of being a fan. I like doing it because it's like fantasy football. I'm not a diehard fantasy football fan, but it's a part of loving sports. It's a part of Sundays. It's a part of being with your boys, having money involved, the group chats where everybody's chirping each other. It comes down to the wire. It's just a part of being a fan. Well, with the W's and L's during the week of the season, the schedule coming out for the season, It's a part of it, even though it makes no sense whatsoever because 99.9% of the time, you don't get it right. It's sort of like filling out the March Madness brackets. Oh, let me see if I can get a perfect bracket. Ain't gonna happen. Are you kidding me? In what world is that going to happen? Every single day when I wake up, it's something new with this team right now. It's Howie Roseman's comments. It's Doug Peterson saying something. It's a Carson Wentz press conference. It's J.J. Arcega-Whiteside being so hurt he can't even walk at times. Alshon Jeffery'S coming back. He's going to be a major part of the offense. This team never lets you down when it comes to being interesting. Very similar to the Sixers. It's like the Sixers and the Eagles. There's always something. Not so much with the Flyers and with the Phillies, but with these two teams, with these two organizations, there's always something going on. And even if it's more to a minor degree. How about this Temple linebacker? On NBC Sports Philadelphia, they have this whole breakdown of his trash talking and how ruthless he is and what he says to opponents. Now, I know a lot of guys around here are thinking maybe this kid can be something because of that attitude. Special teams guy, maybe. I like the story, no doubt. And I tried to sell it during my draft reaction that maybe there's something there because there's an emotional tie of the link. Playing at Temple and then being able to play for the Eagles. There's something to be said about the passion that brings someone and just that extra little juice, even if it's just by 1%, that could be the 1% to put him over the edge. But he's a work in progress for sure. And I know that there's a lot of juice surrounding Wallace and that safety position. And Jeff Mosher and I were talking about this, and I find it so interesting. I like Wallace. I'm intrigued by him, and I think that there's potential to be something in this league at some point. Instantly, I don't know what his impact is going to be, specifically because this whole COVID thing messes up a lot of the plans when it comes to these younger players learning the NFL system. If he had the same skill set, the same speed, can make the same plays, but he didn't play at Clemson, how was he looked at? Completely different. If he went to Louisiana Lafayette, same player, can make the same plays, same speed, can tackle just as hard. The IQ is there. Did not play at Clemson. It's a different vibe, but it's the same player. And I think because it's Clemson, and listen, I'm on board. I love his skill set. I love the attributes. I think he can contribute to an NFL team in his career. But there's an over-obsession because he played at Clemson. Same player, Louisiana Lafayette. I'm telling you, it would not be the same reaction with this kid. We've seen another safety come from Clemson before with a killer dog mentality that sounds the same, and there goes that emotional tie. You connect the two dots and you think, is this possible? Oh, just crazy. So one more time, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power, and they set the standard for clean energy. Whether you are looking to add solar to your home or company, Orbit Energy and Power works directly with you to ensure that you are getting the best deal. So I can't wait for Thursday night. It's going to be fun to see where they play, when they play. Ooh, a Thursday night, a short week after they play the Cowboys. They got to go on the road to play Enter Team here. What's going to happen week 6? When's their bye week? Is it too early? Is it too late? Is it right in the middle? A perfect time for them to rejuvenate their bodies? What are their first 4 games like? We always break it down into 4. What are the first 4 games like? Are they on the road too much? Is there a stretch where they're 3 games on the road, but might have 4 games at home? What was it last year? That's obviously a crazy scenario, but wasn't it last year 3 in a row on the road? And then, man, what was it? It was something crazy like 3 in a row on the road, and then they came home, but they had to play some crazy teams where it was. Now I have to look this up. Let's bring it out. I know they played the Patriots, 2019 Eagles schedule and results. Let's see. I remember going nuts when it broke out. 2000. What? Falcons, Buccaneers. Nope, wrong season. Why does it always do that? I hate the way that they're... Here we go. All right. Yes. It was Vikings, Cowboys, Bills, all on the road. Bang, bang, bang. Then they came home to play the Bears, Patriots, Seahawks. That's what it was. But we had a bye week before the Patriots. That was a tough stretch. That was a brutal, tough 6-game stretch. And on that 6-game stretch, they went 1-2 on the road, 2-2 when they came back, 2-3, 2-4. And I remember saying, and we all did, it wasn't just me. I'm not making it seem like I'm some genius, even though there are times where I do believe that, and there are some times where I don't. That was going to be the season. That was going to be a brutal part, a crucial part, and it would define this team. And to an extent, it did. They fought. There was adversity at the end, yada, yada, yada. We've seen it before. That 6-game stretch, though. And will we see that on Thursday night? Will we see it? We will find out. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And I will see you next time.